What's up, guys? Today we're making one of the most viral taco recipes of the last 5 years. Normally this is an all-day event, but I'm going to show you how to cut the time in half without sacrificing any flavor. This is my recipe for Beef Birria Tacos. Meet me in the kitchen, let's make it happen.
Oh man. Yeah.
Packed with flavor.
Now the funny thing about this recipe is it got super popular over the last 4 or 5 years here in the US, but this has been made in Mexico for centuries. Typically or traditionally it's made with goat or lamb. Here in the US it's typically made with beef 9 times out of 10. One of my favorite ways to prepare this is with short rib or chuck roast. Today we have chuck roast because that was what was on sale at the grocery store. When you shop for your chuck roast, you want to make sure it has adequate fat content. The fat in this recipe is really what makes this recipe special. You want to have it for the consomme. It's also going to be what we're going to cook the tortillas in. Give it that nice color and that slight crisp that you're used to. We're going to go ahead and cut this into, smaller size pieces, about 2 or 3 inch thick pieces. No right or wrong way to do this, guys. Just kind of follow the natural seams in there with the fat. It's probably the easiest way to do that. That way it cooks a little bit better too. We're going to go ahead and cut this down, season it up with some salt. Let that kind of just soak in for about an hour or so before we sear it off. And then we're going to add this into the pressure cooker today. Now traditionally you would make this in like a Dutch oven. It's going to take you 3 or 4 hours to do. But the pressure cooker cuts that in half, or even better, sometimes you get it done in like an hour or so. So this is about 4 pounds of chuck roast. We're going to cut and then salt. And then we're going to start to get to work on our red chili sauce. So just be very generous with the kosher salt here. We're going to add tons of other flavor to the recipe a little bit later, but right now we're just focusing on the salt component on the beef to make sure we have adequate seasoning on that. Also, it's going to sear up nicer with just a salt seasoning. All the dried herbs and pepper and things like that, they really tend to burn at high temperatures. So when you sear something like this with a lot of dried herbs on it, you're really just kind of burning that stuff up. And it kind of defeats the purpose of what you're going for when you're trying to get a good sear. You're going to get the sear, but you're going to end up having like a bitter tasting crust on there from the burnt up dried herbs. So I like to do just a salt brine, and then I'm going to sear this hot and fast, get a good crust. And then we're going to either slow cook this or use the pressure cooker like I said today. Next up, let's talk about what makes this recipe special, and that is the use of these chilies right here. Now, I understand that these can be a little bit hard to find in certain grocery stores. You can find them in most of your grocery stores these days, but if you can't, look for the closest international market, and that's going to be your best bet. Today, we're using ancho chilies. These are going to have almost like a chocolatey raisin kind of flavor profile. It's going to kind of marry everything else together because the arbol chilies are really spicy. We're only using a few of those. And then the most common is going to be the guajillo chili. And that's kind of what's going to round this out. It's about a medium spice level. These are the spicy ones. These are kind of medium, and these aren't very spicy at all, but they have a nice chocolatey, almost like a plum flavor. Really good, great color as well. If you can't find any of these at your store, your best bet is to go ahead and grab one of these cans of chipotles and adobo. Great flavor profile, a little bit spicy, a little smoky. I use this in a lot of different recipes. I keep a few of these in my pantry at all times. And they're great in a birria taco recipe in a pinch where you can't find these other options. All right, guys, so the best way to prepare these is to toast them first, kind of wake up the flavors a little bit, and then we're going to rehydrate them by steeping them in a little bit of warm water. First things first, though, we need to prep them by removing the seeds. You get a nice little bowl here that you can use to kind of help you out here as a trash can almost, and just open them up with some scissors. Great time to wear some gloves because especially with the arbol chilies, you do not want to rub your eyes after dealing with all of these seeds. So we're just going to kind of, you can rip them a little bit just to make sure you get the seeds out of there, get them into bite-sized pieces. They're going to all get blended up anyway, so no need to keep them all pretty. Just go ahead and remove the seeds from here. Great way to add some traditional flavors. You can use these chilies also in your chili recipes or other taco preparations, anything that has like a red sauce. Good application for some of these. You can make different salsas. different marinades, enchilada sauces, taco sauces, things of that nature. And by weight, the peppers themselves are pretty inexpensive at your local store. Demons right here. These bad boys are spicy, especially for me. Y'all know me, I'm a little bit of a punk when it comes to the spice, but they add a nice little fiery pop to the flavor profile. And they're not like crazy spicy. I'll probably rank them, I could be wrong, but somewhere around the habanero, maybe a little less spicy than the habanero. More flavor in my opinion than the habanero. That's why we're only using a few of them. The next step in the process here is to warm your skillet over medium heat. We're gonna add just a touch of olive oil to that skillet, and then we're gonna get those chilies, the dried chilies, on in there and start to toast them up, start to wake them up a little bit, and then we're gonna steep them in some hot water for about 5 or 6 minutes, and it's really kind of rehydrate the chilies. But this is the first step you wanna do right here, just kind of get them in a warm skillet, start to wake them up. Once it gets fragrant, you know you're headed in the right direction. 3 to 5 minutes here, and then another 5 or so minutes in the water. Then we can strain them from that, and we're gonna blend them along with all of our other sauce ingredients and pour that into the pressure cooker, and that's what's gonna be flavoring your beef. Now, while the peppers are steeping like the world's spiciest tea, we're gonna go ahead and season up, Now, while the peppers are steeping like the world's spiciest tea, we're gonna go ahead and sear off our beef. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons of olive oil or avocado oil, whatever you got. This is the same skillet that we used for those peppers, so all that flavor is still in there. We don't want any flavor left behind. Once this gets nice and hot, we're gonna sear off the beef, add it to our pressure cooker pot, and then we're gonna use the same pot to make our sauce to pour over the beef. Next up, my friends, in the same pot or skillet, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of tomato paste. This may not be traditional, but I like to add a few tablespoons of brown sugar, balance out the heat a little bit. We're also going to add in our onions, the juice of 1 lime, a good 1/4 cup or a handful of garlic, we're going to give that a little mix, let that tomato paste start to kind of incorporate and toast a little bit. Then we're going to take 1 cup of the water from the chilies and add that to this as well, along with the rehydrated chilies. And then we're going to blend all of this together, and that's going to form our sauce. We're going to start to season to taste. We got a little all-purpose seasoning, some oregano. If you can find Mexican oregano, that's even better. But oregano will work here. We got some marjoram, about a teaspoon of that. A tablespoon of cumin. I like to add a good tablespoon of chicken bouillon or beef bouillon as well, just as a flavor enhancer. We're going to give that a good mix, blend everything together to make our paste or sauce, whatever you want to call it. And you want to taste it again, adjust the seasoning and the flavor as needed. If it needs to be a little sweeter, you can add a little bit more sugar. If for some reason it's not spicy enough, add some more peppers or some cayenne or something like that. Maybe even a can of that chipotle chilies and adobo. But you shouldn't need much more spice than this. Unless you're a savage, and I know you guys exist too. So shout out to the NutriBullet to let somebody borrow my KitchenAid mixer. Unfortunately, they haven't returned it yet, but the NutriBullet got the job done. This right here is absolutely delicious, smoky, got a hint of sweetness from the brown sugar, plenty of spice. Borderline too much spice for me. That's how I know it's perfect. We're going to go ahead and add that right over our beef. And then we're going to add about a cup or so of beef broth. I'm actually going to pour it on in here so we can make sure that we don't leave anything behind in the flavor department. Then I'm also going to add a little thyme, some bay leaves, 1 cinnamon stick, and then pressure cook this on high for 55 minutes until it's pull apart tender. All right, people, I really wish you could smell this. It smells heavenly. Like if this is what This is what I imagine heaven's like aroma or candle setup smells like. The color is perfect. It's tender, falling apart, and it just smells so good. We're to go ahead and take the meat out of the pressure cooker, and then we're going to strain all of this so we can make our consomme. We're also going to use a little bit of this fat that's pooling at the top to cook our tortillas. One of the other things that's relatively traditional, like if you go to like a street food spot in LA or even Mexico, is after they shred the meat, they cook it on the flat top or cast iron to kind of crisp it up before they add it to the taco. I think that's one of the techniques that's kind of lost in a lot of the more Americanized versions of this. So we're definitely going to crisp the beef up a little bit. And I'm taking my time because I don't want to miss anything. I'm excited about this. Try not to burn our hands as we pour that through there, strain it, and then we're going to use that for our consomme and to cook our tortillas. Now, my friends, it's time to shred the beef, and as you can see, it's not going to take much effort for this to come right apart. We're going to use 2 forks. If it's cool enough, you can get in there with your hands, but 2 forks gets the job done perfectly. It doesn't get much more tender than this, guys. It smells amazing. I tasted some off camera. It tastes incredible. The perfect color. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure people will argue with me in the comments, but I don't think it gets much better than this, folks. If you want to try it with goat or lamb, be my guest. Short rib or chuck roast is a fantastic alternative for the beef eaters out there. But we're just going to shred this up and get it ready for our tacos or queso tacos, whatever you want to call it. You can discard any excess fat if you want to, but I'm not going to today because this is going to be a nice special treat. With the leftovers, you can make quesadillas, you can make burritos, you can make like a melt or a grilled cheese. You can add it to a taco salad. I mean, you really can do whatever you want with it. It's fantastic, reheats really well, especially if you save some of that consomme or braising liquid to reheat it with. It's the best, guys. You don't get much better than this. All right, guys, so what I'm about to do now is begin to crisp up this beef. We're gonna add a little bit of the consomme with some of the fat still in there. And then we're gonna add the amount of beef that we intend to use for our tacos. And we're just gonna kind of make a flat layer and get it kind of crispy. You want some charred bits in there. And I think that's kind of the flavor that's missing from a lot of these Americanized taco spots. It's like you don't get that crispiness. All the beef is kind of like, you know, soggy or chewy. Kind of like tastes like it was cooked in a crock pot. That crispiness that you get when you do this step right here really adds an element of flavor and texture to your tacos. Highly recommended. Real high heat just for a couple minutes, just to get a little texture, a little crust, a little additional caramelization. And then we're going to take that, leave it in the skillet, and just use it for our tacos. We're going to take some of this oil or consomme and a corn tortilla. Lay it on in there like so. I like to get both sides. Then we're going to lay in some Oaxaca cheese, which melts beautifully. Try to refrain from overstuffing your tortilla. I know it's going to be difficult. In goes the beef. And then we're going to fold it over to basically make like a quesadilla. That's why they call it queso birria, queso taco. Whatever you want to call it, it's going to be damn delicious. All right, guys. Found me a nice crispy one. We've been taking a ton of thumbnails, so plate's a little messy now. But this part where I say brace yourself for a trademark money shot. Say it with me, guys. Looking good. The only thing left to do is dig in for the taste test. But before we do that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications as well. I'm going to go ahead and add some white onion to mine. Fold her back up. Might have went a little crazy on the onion. Dunk. Moment of truth.